Hello, it's Matt, and welcome to episode 56 of Gross Oversimplifications, where I talk about how to do stuff to your guitar yourself. And I can hear you thinking, no, he doesn't. He hasn't said any things about how we do stuff to our guitars ourselves. But I'm going to, because I know I've been wasting your time. And it's fun, but I thought I might tell you how to do something. And I just tried to do this episode before, and I ran out of time. So I'm gonna cheat. So last week I intimated that I take the gloss off guitar necks quite often, and I do, because people ask how to do it, and I step them through all the steps, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you can do that for me." Well, that's not the point. You can do it, okay? So we're going to talk about that today. Now, there's some disclaimers. I am talking about a poly finished neck. If you have a nitro finished neck, I don't know, like maybe slide into my DMs, and I'll talk about that, because you've got to be slightly more careful if you've got a nitro neck. Okay. And the other thing is, I do this in a particular way that suits me. Okay, and you could call it a particularly conservative approach, I guess, because I don't take the finish off the necks. I don't go too hard on the whole thing, because in my mind, the best guitar mods that you can do are ones that you can undo when you change your mind. Okay, you don't want to do anything permanent. Because you change your mind, okay? So how I do this is quite mild. So if you do change your mind, you can just gloss it back up later, okay? And nothing's damaged. Okay, that's just how I prefer to do things. You might have a different opinion, but we don't know what we want, especially not in the future. But your future entails 3 minutes of me talking about how to degloss your neck. So, to start with, I tape it off. I tape off where I want a clear demarcation between not shiny and shiny, okay? And if you look at a really nice factory sort of instrument, like an Ernie Ball or a Sir or whatever, they'll have a really clear line, okay? And that's what we want to replicate. And I do that with electrical tape. And electrical tape has no place in guitar land, but it's pretty good for this. Because it's stretchy, you can stretch it and it can conform to a rounded surface more easily than paper-based tapes. Okay, so do that for your line, and then just use low-tack masking tape, not the cream-looking one, the blue or the green. And then I would mask this whole thing off if I was doing it for real. So once you've prepped that, and do it down this end too, and protect your body, your guitar body. Then what do I use? I use 1200 grit wet and dry sandpaper. Okay, I'll come back to that. And I use brass wool, and I use brass wool because it's nice and fine. You can also use the 40 steel wool. Just be really aware that the particles get everywhere, and because it's steel wool, it's magnetic, so you don't want steel wool particles up in your grill. So just be really careful. Tape off everything, or even better, if you can, take the neck off. Go outside or something. So just be careful with that stuff. Okay, so the process that I use after I've masked it off is I get a piece of sandpaper, and usually a bit of foam behind it, and you just rub it on the neck until the gloss is gone, and you're like, okay, this is cool. Wait, it's not working anymore. Matt's an idiot. An idiot I may be, but this is called wet and dry sandpaper, okay? And traditionally it's used wet, and they'll have it in a water bath, and the water. So what's happening is the particles of the finish are loading up into the grit of the sandpaper, and then it doesn't work anymore. So, but if it was wet, the water would lubricate the grit and the particles would fall out and you can keep using it for a while. That's the idea. Problem is, on a guitar, you don't want to use water because the water can swell up the timbre on your fretboard or get in the cracks, or you don't want to use that. What I use is Shellite, and I use that in place of the water. Shellite, naptha, not water, and that it does the same thing as the water, but it doesn't swell up your timbre. Okay, so you do that, and then you go through until it's good, and then you go through with the wool and make it a bit better. And you check it in a nice light and make sure that you've got all your bits, take off your tape, and you're like, yes, this is, actually, I don't like it. I shouldn't have done that.